ask me, is there anything you enjoy more than winning with old janky cards? I tell them, I enjoy more than winning with old janky cards is winning with new janky cards.
Yes, that's what we're gonna do today. Finally! Throne of Eldraine has been, I mean, it's not being completely spoiled. We have like 10 spoilers or something today that we're gonna get through. But there's some new mechanics that they're gonna showcase here with these cards. And there's some really interesting cards. So I think we're just gonna jump right into it. Gilded Goose. This is a very interesting card for many reasons. First of all, it kind of showcases one of the new mechanics that's going to be in the game, which is going to be food. So when Gilded Goose enters the battlefield, it creates a food token, and here you can see what it is. It's an artifact with 2 colors. Sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. So it's kind of a shit token, to be perfectly fair. But it seems like this token can then be used by several other creatures and planeswalkers and stuff like that. So that these food tokens, usually you're probably not gonna use it for that 2 colors. Maybe if you're up against like mono red or something, or if you're in a pinch, then hopefully if you have enough food, you can just eat up all that food and not be in any threat of dying against mono red. But except for that, it doesn't seem super useful to have this food, except if you have things which, you know, synergize with the food. So this Gilded Goose of course synergizes with itself, because it can sacrifice a food and add 1 mana of any color, which seems super duper amazing. Of course, it seems like it's the new Bird of Paradise kind of thing. I mean, Lone Elf is going to rotate in October. There's not going to be any new Lone Elf, and we kind of need a new replacement for that card, and it seems like Gilded Goose will fill that role. It has the unfortunate side effect that you can use it on turn 2 to get 3 mana, of course, the same that good with Lone Elf, but the turn after that you will have to create food, or whatever you put out for 3 mana has to create more food for you. So either have to have a deck which is full of food, so that the Gilded Goose can eat food every turn to produce more mana, or you need to have some downtime with it where you like create some food, use some mana, create some food and stuff like that. You can probably have decks which goes either way there, but I like that it also has 1 colors in green and create a food token, so it makes it like not a dead card. Even if this is your only card in your hand, you can do something with it. You can create food tokens, which will probably only be good in like a late game scenario again versus like mono red. And remember also that ascending, that entire thing will also be rotating out in October, so it would be of course amazing with ascend cards, but those are all going away. But otherwise it would be. But there's many things which also synergize with artifacts, and there's many things that's not many things, but there's 1 card which I know that makes things cheaper to activate on creatures, which might be relevant here. There's gonna be a lot of things where you can activate some ability on a creature to do something, and I think that synergizes well. There's a green-blue card, I don't remember exactly what it's called. Hopefully I will have edited it in there, or I forgot about it, we'll see. But that card seems to synergize very well with, maybe not with a card like this so much, because you can only make 1 ability cheaper, and that's a create food token, but there's a lot of other creatures and stuff like that that's gonna have abilities, which if you make them cheaper is gonna be good. And I think that's gonna be something that's gonna be very relevant in the upcoming set. So I really like this card. It's definitely gonna see play. A little bit unfortunate that it's rare, but it has so many unique abilities that it's kind of... I mean, if I look at this card, it looks like a card that is rare, to be fair though. But it's a little bit sad, because Lone Elf has always been, you know, that amazing common card that can just run away with the game. And there's so many good 3-drops right now in Standard. It's like the barrier to the good cards, essentially. Like there's Teferi Time Ravel, like every good, you know, 3 mana planeswalker, everything that's good essentially is put on 3 mana. It's very few really strong 2-drops, I would say, right now in Standard. Can't even think of any on the top of that. There's like some nice things that like, for instance, I like Fabulepotep and I like Callous Dismissal, because those are like good 2-drops, but it's, I basically like them because there's so few good 2-drops. We don't have like Dark Confidant or something. I don't know if you've seen Dark Confidant. Dark Confidant was a 1 black, 1 colorless, and at the beginning of your upkeep, I think it's the upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library, And then you take damage equal to its mana cost, but essentially you draw 1 extra card every turn, which was of course super duper amazing, especially if everything is low costing in your deck. It doesn't matter that you take a little damage from it. We don't have anything like that. We don't have any like 2-drop which needs to be answered, it feels like. So if you can skip directly to a 3-drop instead, because most 3-drops are really good, and some really good ones. There's like the Gruul one is also pretty good, I would say. 1 red, 1 green, 1 colorless for a 4/4, and or you can make it a 3/3 haste. That's pretty decent. I mean, most planeswalkers, like the Chandra Planeswalker, for instance, is pretty good. 2 red, 1 colorless. Teferi here of Dominaria is probably the best one, to be fair. Or not here of Dominaria. Time Raveler is probably the best one to put out. But there's many things that really wants that 3rd mana, and Gilded Goose just provides that for you. And it's usually doesn't matter too much if you can't use it for the 4th mana. It's so good to just ramp into your 3-drop. Oh, another one, of course. I don't know, I forgot to mention this. I'm gonna mention this card even more. Risen Reef. There's gonna be cards that synergize very well with Risen Reef. I think we're gonna see much more of the elementals and the kind of go bonkers kind of strategy where like draw cards, put in lands, draw cards, put in lands, draw cards, put in lands, and then something, you know, extreme happen. Also, I think that probably, yeah, I mean, Scapeshift will go away, yes, but I don't think Field of the Dead is dead. When I've seen these cards also. I think there's gonna be more. I mean, there's already ways of making Field of the Dead work without Scapeshift. So I think that archetype of deck will definitely stay, and then it will even be stronger after this set, is what I think. So that's a Gilded Goose. I think it's a very nice card, and I really like it. Then we get to the Golden Egg, another card which I like. I like most things that have been spoiled there, I must say. Golden Egg, 2 colors. When Golden Egg enters the battlefield, draw a card. This is very similar to, there's another artifact which also costs 2, which draws a card when it comes into play. And then you can sacrifice it to add 1 mana of any color, or you can sacrifice the Golden Egg and you gain 3 life, which is exactly the same as, you know, regular food. And it even has artifact food, so you can sacrifice this to whatever thing you need to sacrifice to your goose or whatever. So it's very nice that it's food, so that can be used with other things. And also, it's very similar to the mana fix that we already have, which can mana fix 2 colors, but this can only mana fix 1 color, but it had the added benefit that it's a food. I mean, that artifact hasn't seen much play, but it's seen play in some weird decks, like some really weird strategies kind of wants that thing where you maybe you want a lot of artifacts, like if you have a Tesseract deck, or maybe you want to, you can't ascend anymore, but there's like a lot of reasons to have lots of artifacts. For instance, for Karn and stuff like that, you might want to have a lot of artifacts, or you might want to color mana fix, like for instance if you're running Niv Mizzet. There's so many reasons to run these kinds of cards, or if you want to have 4 permanents for put Omniscience thing into play, whatever that card was, 6 mana. There's so many reasons to do that. So I do like this card. I don't see any like immediate application for this. Of course, there's another card that could go into that that kind of archetype, that 6 mana, put something into play. Hopefully I will have edited this in, else you'll have to guess what card I'm talking about. Yeah, really like this card, and it kind of foretells, at least for me, it seems like there's gonna be more food. There's probably even gonna be rare food, I would say, or maybe even mythic food, we'll see. But I really like that this type of card, and this type of card which not, I mean, it's not obviously good. When you look at it, it's like, what does this do? But then when you start thinking about the synergies and stuff like that, that's when it becomes interesting. I think this card is much more interesting than, like, I don't know, a green 5/5 for 2 or something. I mean, it would still be a very good card, but it wouldn't be as interesting as this, because now I immediately like start thinking like, okay, it's an artifact. Okay, what other, you know, cards synergize with artifact? Okay, it's food, so it synergizes with this thing and draws a card when it comes to play. Maybe I can bounce this. Maybe I can do something. So that's of course another application with this. Since we have 2 artifacts now, I don't remember if that one artifact is going to rotate. Well, I have to look it up. But we have 2 artifacts which draws cards. So maybe there's the Foundry. I think it's a 4 mana colorless, and you can place things from the top of your library. If you couple this with Ugin, for instance, and you can draw a lot of cards from the top of the library, you can like have some scry lands, and you can have this, and you can have Ugin, and you can have that thing, and you can like go through your entire deck and draw everything with all these eggs and stuff like that. That could be one strategy. And there's so much. There's so much you could do with this. Is this gonna see play? I will see. I'll definitely try to brew something around it, but I'll brew around anything. So, yeah, like this card. Next card, Crystal Slipper. 1 colorless, 1 red. So this is a little bit similar to a card back in the day, which did have, it cost 2 mana to play. Okay, I gotta read it first. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 in haste, and equip for 1. There was a card which you had equip 0, but which only gave haste, I'm pretty sure. Which cost 2 mana. And that card was pretty good, but it was super good because you could equip for 0. I mean, would this be too good if it was equipped for 0? Probably not, is what I would say. It would probably not be too good. It would be good. It would probably be a rare card then or something like that. Right now it feels like it's... could maybe run 1 of this. Maybe run 1 of this, but... I mean, you never want 2 in the deck. That's the thing. But it's, as I said, we have a lack of 2 drops. There's not, so if you can set something up with 2 mana, that can usually be, or that can be good. But there's not that many creatures with 3 mana which you really want to have get haste, which can't already get haste. Like most things that want to have haste are already Gruul and they already have Riot and everything. So it's very rare. I guess there's like, if you couple this with green and you have like, there's like the 6/6 dude, whatever his face is. But the thing is, you need to pay 1 mana to equip, and it kind of ruins everything with this card, because else you could, you know, have a 3-drop after that, and if it was equip 0, you could, you know, attack in with it immediately. But because it's equip 1, I think that it might not even see play. It's too bad. I mean, yeah, they could really have made it a little bit cheaper. I like the idea of getting things haste, and I like having haste on a stick, essentially. But I don't like the mana cost here. I don't like that it costs essentially 3, and you paid 3 mana, and all you've done is give something +1 or 1 power and haste. So yeah, it's a little bit of a, unfortunately, a shit card, I must say. Next card, Oko, Thief of Crowns. Now here's an interesting card, I must say. 1 colorless, 1 green, and 1 blue. It seems like Simic is going to get some support. I mean, at least from what we've seen so far. It seems like Simic is going to be still really strong. We already have the Risen Reef, which is a very good reason to go into Simic right now, along with Llanowelf, I guess. And now here's another reason, I think. Because this guy is pretty decently good, I think. I mean, he's not Teferi Time Raveler good, but he's good. He's good, I would say. So first you can create a food token. If you don't remember food token, it is an artifact. It costs 2 colorless, and you sacrifice it to gain 3 life. So that's not super, you know, amazing to be able to create that. It does go up +2 in loyalty though, so it's very difficult to kill this guy. And if you go for the food token, especially since you can play this with a goose, and I think that's how mostly this is, of course, gonna be played. You're gonna drop down the goose turn 1. Turn 2, you're gonna goose into Oko, and Oko is gonna create a food token so that the goose can continue to create 1 more mana. And while that thing is creating 1 more mana, you go for something else, like probably the ultimate is what I would assume that you go for. So we're gonna read all the abilities though. +1, target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. So there's a lot of things you can do with this, of course. The most obvious would be with the amass things. I'm, of course, thinking Callous Dismissal. Because it's so good with that. You could do it with Fubbalap. Like, there's like so many things which you could use this with. You could also, of course, use it with your opponent's things. Like if your opponent has a Galta or something, you might want to turn that into a 3/3 elk instead. But it's very rare for your opponents to have really big creatures, at least in my opinion. There's mostly now in standard is small creatures and things which you don't want to buff up. I mean, if your opponent has like a Risen Reef, do you want to turn it into an elk? Maybe. I mean, Risen Reef is more dangerous, even though it's just a 1/1, than Elk, even though it's a 3/3, but at the same time, you've given him a 3/3 and you haven't really killed it. I don't know. I think that this ability is probably mostly gonna be used on your own things. Because, like, Callous Dismissal, for instance. Let's say you play Oko Thieves of Crowns, you go with a food token, then you maybe go with the ultimate, and then the turn after that, you go with the plus. We're gonna talk about the ultimate also. But then, let's say on that turn you play Callous Dismissal, and then you have a Callous Dismissal token lying around, and you have Oko on very low loyalty, then you go plus on that token, and you upgrade it from a 1/1 to a 3/3, which is pretty sweet, and you also get some loyalty of Oko Thieves of Crown. Assuming that you don't need the food though, because this guy could just be a food producer for you for the rest of the game. But I think his ultimate is really, really cooler. Exchange control of target artifact or creature you control and target creature and opponent controls with power 3 or less. This is really, really strong, especially since you can play it on turn 2. So let's say you have the Gilded Goose and you create you drop down Oko on your turn 2. Now your opponent might only have 1 mana. Like, this is your turn 2. He might just be sitting there with 1 mana. So you might not have anything really that can really threaten Oko Thieves of Thief of Crowns. So even if you go for the food token that you're gonna use the following turn for your for Gilded Goose, they're probably not gonna be able to attack in. Even if it's mono red, they're probably not gonna be able to attack in or prevent him from going up with the ultimate. And then you're sitting there and threatening the ultimate for I mean, whatever they put down, you can just exchange with whatever you want to exchange it with. I mean, you can even change away your goose if you want to, because if your opponent can't produce food on their side of the table, then the goose is pretty useless to them. So it will only work in the food producing decks, which I think is very interesting. And also, you can, like, for instance, let's say, is Chainwhirler gonna be in the next? I think Chainwhirler's gonna... no, Chainwhirler is Ravnica, right? So for instance, your opponent has a Chainwhirler, you trade it with, I don't know, a Callous Dismissal token, or you trade it with an artifact, you trade it with a food. That's probably what you're gonna do all the time with this. You trade away your food, which you produced, because you might not want to eat it up with the goose, and then you trade your food for their creatures, which is very, very strong, of course. And most things are gonna be power 3 or less. Like, most dangerous things are gonna be power 3 or less, and even things, I mean, think about it, how many good things there are. There's of course the Risen Reef and all that. There's like everything in mono red. Most things in vampires you can just take over with this, but vampires of course going away, so that's not a good example. Simic Flash dudes, you could probably take over most things there. Because that's probably going to be quite a big contender for a good deck, I would say, after rotation. What else could you take over? Ooh, what's his name? It's the 3/5 lifelinker, which costs 5 mana, which doubles all the triggers when something on display. You can take over that for just trading with a food. There's so many good things you can take over. I can't even think of all the cards you can take over, but most things I would say you could take over. So this card seems to be very, very strong. It seems like it mostly fits in a deck which can utilize the food though. I mean, it doesn't exclusively do that, because since you can go plus and then -5, but mostly it's gonna do that. So I really, really like this card. It's a little bit tricky. It's something we've never seen before on a Planeswalker. And it seems good. It honestly seems good. Power level wise, I would say that it's weaker than Fair Time Raveler, definitely. But it's probably stronger than the Red Chandra, I think. It seems more straightforward. Just go plus and -5. It seems more threatening to go +2 and then threaten -5, rather than what the Red Chandra, which is another good Planeswalker for 3, could do right now. Because the problem right now, I would say, with the Red Chandra, which is another... The reason I'm comparing this is because they have the same converted mana cost, because both got 3 and they were both Planeswalkers. The Chandra can't really do super much threatening things. I mean, she can produce 2 1/1s, which you need to sacrifice, but she can't do much if she's alone. But this guy can do quite a thing alone, I think, like, producing a food token and then going minus with that food token is really, really strong, and being able to do that all by yourself. And even if they kill him, which is very difficult because he's gonna have 6 loyalty, you still get a food token out of it, which can probably, you know, utilize in your deck. So yeah, I like this card. In summary, I like this card. Next card. Witching Well. It's an artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, you scry 2, and then you can 3 and 1 blue. Sacrifice Witching Well, draw 2 cards. This doesn't seem good with anything, but there might be some synergy with this when this becomes good. But I can't really see it right now. There has to be something like you can use an artifact to do something. You can eat up an artifact. You can do, I mean, Tesseract, Master of the Bridge to buff him or something. But it seems like 4 mana to draw 2 cards. Then a little bit of scry. It seems weak right now, is what it seems. It seems very risky to put this out also, especially since there's gonna be things which kills artifacts and stuff like that we're gonna have a look at also. So it seems weak. Maybe there's some way of brewing around, but I haven't seen it and I can't come up with it, like, on top of my head, like something which really synergizes well with this. Hopefully there's something like you can sacrifice artifacts to do something in the set is what I'm hoping for. Then we have Rowan, and here I have to check what this says because it's very difficult to even see the text there, and even if I could read it, I think it's in French or something. So, Legendaire. Rouen in this image intrépide. I can't speak French, as you might have realized already. +1. Up to 1 target creature gets +3/+0 and first strike until end of turn. Scores a shit ability on a 5 mana planeswalker. And a -2. Rowan deals 1 damage to up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures cannot block this turn. Another shit ability on a 5 mana planeswalker. And -9. Gain control of all creatures until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste. I mean, that's a decent ability, but on a 5 mana planeswalker, for the ultimate, nah. I think this is another. There's a couple of these like mythics that come in every set, like mythic planeswalkers. I don't know exactly. I think they put these in. These are like easily available some ways to like Timmy players or something. And they're always useless, and there's always in no play, and there's no way of brewing around them. So I think we're just gonna skip to the next card. Valence of Rowan. This is a shit creature which charges for Rowan, and I'm not gonna talk about it too much because another thing which never gonna see play. And this is a other creature which gets +3/+0 if you have Rowan. I mean, it's another, yeah, it's another shit creature. They always make these shit cards. Around shit planeswalkers which sees no play and which you can't brew around because they're, yeah, has no upside. Now we get to a good card. I need to get some complaining out of me. You know how much I love complaining. Best thing in life, complaining. Lovestruck Beast, 2 colorless, 1 green. And here we get to see the next kind of new, new abilities that we're gonna see in this game. So this is a creature beast noble. I don't think that there's too many nobles in the game right now. It's an interesting creature type there. And then you get to have a left side and right side here. And the left side says Heart's Desire, Sorcery, Adventure. Create a 1/1 white human creature token. And then the right side seems to be what the abilities that this creature has. Lovestruck Beast can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. And this seems to be something that is active no matter if you activated this ability or not. It seems like he always has this ability, or it seems like to me. So Lovestruck Beast, is he any good? Well, it kind of depends on how Heart's Desire. They haven't spoiled yet how this mechanic works. At least I haven't seen how this mechanic works yet. So it seems like it's a ability that can use to get a 1/1 creature token, but we don't know how in game terms how does this work. Is this a activated ability? Is this a spell? Can this be countered, for instance, by your opponent? Can you activate this once per turn? Can you activate this any number of times per turn? I mean, it says sorcery, so I would guess that it acts like a spell and it can be countered, would be my guess. And then there's a limit on adventure sorceries can only be played. You can only play 1 adventure sorcery per turn or something like that, would be my guess. If you can play it any number per turn, then it's very, very, very good, of course. Because then you can just every time it's your turn, you can just, you know, turn all your forest sideways and create an army of 1/1s, which is of course super duper amazing. But I don't think it works like that. I think it's gonna be just you can use it once per turn, and then if you have to evaluate it after that. So it's a 5/5 for 3, which of course is very, very good stats. If we compare this, we have a 5/4 for 3, which is, you know, 0 play right now. I mean, sometimes you see it in like mono green Stompy and stuff like that. But even though it has good stats, it sees no play because it's so easy to kill. You can kill it with any removal spell. You can kill it with any like bounce spell. Like if someone plays Callus's Missile, or probably more likely to Fairy Time Raveler, it's just gonna get bounced and you get no value out of it. So this is pretty much the same thing. It doesn't provide anything new over that except for this Heart's Desire ability, but it can't attack in unless you have that. So it essentially costs 3 and you need to pay 1 mana to be able to attack with it. So that seems kind of crap, but it very much depends on how the Sorcery Adventure works. Can you activate this any number of times? Then it seems like a very, very big threat, because your opponent needs to get rid of this, or else you will have an army of 1/1s. On your side of the board. And even if you have something that synergizes with this, like if you can get mana out of this or something, like, or you can sacrifice these guys, or you can do something with this human, or maybe you can buff them up in some way, then it can become very dangerous and your opponent needs to deal with the Lovestruck Beast. Right now it seems like you can just chump this guy, or you can bounce the 1/1 token that he produces, and he can't really do anything with the Lovestruck Beast. So it seems to be a little bit underwhelming. It seems like the 5/4 that we already have seems, I mean, in a all-out battle, of course, this guy is gonna win, because you can just jump. Oh, we can't jump with 1/1 because things with power 2 or less can't block it. This can be blocked and jumped by anything. Yeah, this doesn't seem super good. Unless Heart's Desire can be, you know, played any number of times, then it seems to be very good. So it's very hard to evaluate this card when we don't know about the mechanics. So time is gonna tell how this mechanic works. I think it's a very interesting mechanics though. I really like this kind of thing where you can, like, creatures can play spells. I really, really like this. And I wish that there was more things like this, like things which you can use when the creature comes into play, so that even if it gets answered immediately, you can get something out of it. That's something that I really, really like, because now it seems like Planeswalkers have such an upper hand on creatures, in my opinion at least, because Planeswalkers can do something immediately. Creatures usually can't unless they have haste, and even if they have haste, usually your opponent has something like a 1/1 blocker or something, so that they can just negate whatever that creature would have done. But if the creatures can start acting, I wouldn't say that they want them to act like Planeswalkers exactly, because they need to be something like differentiating them, but I want them to be able to more like be able to use abilities when they come into play. Even if it's like minor abilities, and they don't have to be that strong, but in that case you can gain some value, and it more incentivizes you to use creatures, because now I think that most creatures are a little bit boring. They're just like, it feels like I'm playing Risk or something, like I need to remove a certain amount of HPs from my opponent, and then I need to have a certain amount of power, but the creatures in themselves are very boring, where they usually, in my opinion at least, the Planeswalkers up until now have been more interesting. They can do things, they can synergize with other things, they can bounce things, they like immediately can do something. So even if, for instance, it gets immediately removed, you can get some kind of value, or can do something with it. While with the creatures, usually if they get immediately removed, it does nothing. They did absolutely nothing for you. That I do like, I must say. Next card, Wishful Merfolk. 1 colorless and 1 blue. Defender. 1 colorless and 1 blue. Wishful Merfolk loses Defender and becomes a human until end of turn. I don't see any application for this. This even has shit stats. I think this is just to showcase that something can turn into a human, and it's a little bit cute, but it's never gonna see play. So, next card. Run away together. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hand. This, I think, is an actually interesting card. How good is this? I mean, it's like an it's like you get 2 unsummons. One which you can use on your own things, and one you can use on your opponent things. With the combined mana cost 2, which is fine. Very specific decks that want to do this, but I think there's like one type of deck like that might want to do this. Also good that it's an instant. So for instance, let's say you have Risen Reef out or something, and your opponent goes to, I don't know, lightning strike it or something, then you answer with runaway together, and you return that to your hand, and you return whatever big threat they might be wanting to attack in with also to their hand. So you can do cute things like that. So it might see play in very specific decks, but it's only of course gonna be if you have some big benefit of returning your own creatures. The only one that I can see right now would be like Risen Reef. Fabulous doesn't work unfortunately because he runs back into the deck, and there's no other real creatures that you want to play again. I mean, there's like the vampire dude which draws you cards, but you probably don't want to slow your deck down that much that you know want to play Runaway together. It has to be something like Risen Reef or something that plays this. Most likely not gonna see play, but it might see play, especially if it's supported by other cards, I would say. Then we get the Flax and Intruder. This is a good card, I would say. 1 green, and it's a 1/2, so decent stats. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is very good because it's gonna be, as it seems at least, a lot of good artifacts and maybe even enchantments on your opponent's side. It's only 1 mana and can take something out. Unfortunately, it needs to sacrifice for that, but that's still quite good. And then it has Welcome Home, which costs 7 mana. Traditionally, anything that costs 7 mana is not gonna be played ever in Magic, unless it wins you the game. It's my consensus on 7 mana things. This doesn't win the game. It creates 3 2/2 green bear creature tokens. So this seems very similar to whatever that card was. There was like a beast producing a wolf, a Nissa something. No, maybe not Nissa. Something that produced wolf tokens, which saw 0 play. The redeeming factor of Welcome Home is of course that it sits on a 1 mana 1/2, so you might want to play this anyway, especially if there's going to be a lot of artifacts and enchantment. This might see play. So this is a very meta dependent card, but if we see a lot of artifacts and enchantments running around, and if you really need to kill them, Flax and Intruder might be, the perfect card to do that. It of course can kill food also, but it's gonna be very narrow. I mean, it could, shut down your opponent's goose, but then at the same time, you're losing your Flax and Intruder to shut down that food. So do you really want to do that? Maybe. I think that it's good that it can shut down your opponent's food, but will you do that? Very meta dependent card. Very hard to say how good this is gonna be. If there's a lot of artifact enchantments that you want to kill, then yes. Welcome Home is just gonna be some gravy on top, I think. I'm looking forward to these abilities, and this is probably gonna be some much stronger like sorcery adventure things that we're gonna see. But because the things that we've seen so far don't seem strong, but this is assuming that it can only be played once per turn. We don't know that yet. So next card, Shulain, Teller of Tales. 2 colors, 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue. Vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This to me seems absolutely bonkers. This already we have like the Risen Reef Yarok thing. Yarok was the name I forgot last time. Risen Reef Yarok thing where you kind of try to draw you out your entire deck, maybe play Field of the Dead. This synergizes very well with a strategy like that. You can have this with like Risen Reef, and when you play Risen Reef you draw an extra card, and then you put another land card down, and you already like draw so many cards, and you can draw your entire deck and you put everything down, trigger Field of Dead a million times, and this just goes to reinforce that strategy, it feels like. And then you can pay 3 colorless to return a creature you control to its owner's hand. Yeah, most probably only gonna be good with like Risen Reefs, maybe Fabulous, stuff like that. Also, is there anything else about this card? Just got quiet. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? That's about it, I would say. It seems like the kind of Risen Reef go bonkers strategy gets even more support with this card. I mean, think about it. Turn 1, you drop down the goose. Turn 2, you drop down the Risen Reef. Maybe there's... Now you won't have food for your goose, I realized. But if you have some way of getting food for goose, maybe there's like a land which produces food or something, I don't know. Then you play Shulun on your turn 3, turn 4 if you hit a land with Risen Reef or something like that. And then it's very strong. His stats are quite bad, I would say. 2/4 vigilance for 5 is... I mean, it's even worse than Yarok. And Yarok has lifelink, which is very good, and it's a big factor in that team scene playing, and also that he has 5 toughness, so he dodges like, the lava calls and everything like that. This guy doesn't do that, so it's much easier to kill. but it has a very, very strong effect on him, and I would be surprised if this doesn't see play. The thing is, I was a little bit on the fence on Yarok when I saw him the first time, but the thing is, I realized that you can play things which doesn't really have an immediate effect on the battlefield when they come into play, if the effect can like win you the game. And this is another effect which I think can win you the game. If you synergize around this, if you build your deck around this, you can just play so much that you probably win with your Shalloon Teller of Tales. Also, it's very nice with what's it called? Time Spark Double. That's the card I'm thinking about. Because if you Spark Double this guy, it will trigger himself, and you will be able to draw another card, input another card, and then whenever you might draw into more Spark Double, more Spark Doubles, and more Spark Doubles, Spark Doubles, and get more lands and stuff like that. And Spark Double already synergizes well with Risen Reef, so we might see like Risen Reef Spark Double Fabulous Shalloon, for instance. Seems like to be like a very solid core of a deck, and then you add something like Field of Dead and something else. I don't know. Something like that. Could definitely be cool. Next card, Witch's Cottage. Witch's Cottage enters the battlefield tapped unless you control three or more other swamps. Oh, it's a swamp by itself. Oh, that's a little bit interesting, honestly. That it's a swamp. This is rare that we see this. That we see a swamp which is not really a swamp. Well, Witch's Cottage enters the battlefield untapped. Okay, so if you have 3 or more swamps, you may put target creature card from a graveyard on top of your library. Is there any now I'm thinking mono black. Is there any mono black cards that you want to do this with? Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, if you could, for instance, Witch's Cottage together with... Ooh. This is very good synergy with the Knight, Cavalier of Night. If you use Cavalier of Night with Witch's Cottage, you could sacrifice something, and then you can either return the thing that you sacrificed with Cavalier of Night with Witch's Cottage, because this is gonna be a little bit later. It's not gonna be for the early turns. Like, you need 3 or more other swamps before this starts working, so it's like gonna be on your turn 4, turn 5, right? So you put down the Cavalier of Night, you drop down your Witch's Cottage, and then whatever you killed, which you might want back, you return, or when your Cavalier of Night eventually dies, you return your Cavalier of Night with Witch's Cottage. I mean, it's very, very late game, but it synergizes super well with Cavalier of Night, which I think is already a strong card. I'm still surprised that so few people play it. I think it's an amazing, amazing card, honestly. It's a 4/5 if you haven't seen it. A 4/5 which you sacrifice a creature and you can destroy another creature, and it has lifelink also. I mean, the fact that it has lifelink, that it can destroy anything, I think it's super duper strong. Will this make mono black, you know, super duper strong? No, not by itself, I wouldn't say. But it's another thing which might help tip mono black and make it even stronger. It's a little bit unfortunate that it comes into play tapped, of course, but I mean, it might be worth it in certain decks that want to recur from the graveyard. It might be worth doing something like this. So it's an interesting card. I really like it. I really like that it's a swamp also, so that you can still play it with Cabal Stronghold, which I think is gonna rotate, but you know, things which synergizes with swamp. So for instance, you could play this with this, like the Shade, for instance, the 4-mana dude, and that's another card that you might want to also return with Witch's Cottage, but it will trigger that also and stuff like that. So I really like this card, of course. And now we're back to the Gilded Goose. Those were all the spots. Man, 38 minutes. Okay, well, didn't plan on making it so long, but I'm very, very excited for Throne of Eldraine. As you might have guessed, there's going to be more spoilers. We're going to talk about this, you know, in the upcoming weeks until the set is released. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Member shout out. Member shout out. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and a special thank you, of course, to our dear members: Blue Dragon, Owen77, Adam Alexis, Ramen Noodles for me, Clark Bush, Magic Pistolman, Simon Lauer, MTG Noob, Rodney Cox, Herman M, Agony Reborn, Soft Pillow, Snick, Luria Stars, Michael Aguilar, Shamanix, Spencer Hofsty, Carlos Martinez, Alex Maikov, Laserset to Stun, Eric0234, Jeff Henry, Diesel Fizzlepop, Ellie Curtis, Leaning Into It, Santa John, Michael W, Pocky U, Matthias Pauli, Toplets Investments, Kronos1107, W Lutz 1978, Wokia Floren, Pete Rick, Peter Gold, Yuki Monsky, Bora Raw, Strange Brontides, Sean Stevens, Gabriel Juvenal, Fidel Lucentini, Tundex, Smog JC, Marcus Rutledge, Tim Stokes, Wiza, QD Lady 23, Brian Gutierrez, Amano84, Seth Hickok, Way, Ian Cusack, Ye Old Bassist, MCMOC1, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Matthew Sherwood, X-Covenant X, Dingus Scrub, David Newman, Betsuma, Brandon Dobbs, Magneto, Serge Karamarov, Potte, Wonderbread, Drew Styles, Aaron Noble, Kip Costner, Dan Goodsell, Carlo Palumbo, Freeman Stephenson, Crew, The Barbarian, Orion, SSFL, Tyler Madlow, Link is Weak, Nicolas Zanotti, Rainbird 2002, Acros Ascending, 40k Television, DBK Drummer, Rainbow Cake, Eventum Tantum, Jeff Georger, Sarah M, and Timothy. You guys are amazing. If you also want to become a Dark Disciple, help support me and rule the underworld and all that jazz, then check out either the join button next to the subscribe button or check out my Patreon. Thanks so much for watching and see you next time. Also, thank you to all the badge holders on Patreon! And don't forget to subscribe!